Have you ever been in a meeting where someone keeps mentioning they know the CEO personally, or uses unnecessarily complicated words to explain something simple? Maybe you've caught yourself doing this too. Today we're diving into why intelligent, capable people sometimes act, well, fake at work, and the psychology behind it might surprise you. Stick around, because I'm also going to give you practical strategies to spot these behaviors in yourself and others, plus how to communicate authentically in high-pressure professional situations. Every workplace has them: the name dropper, the person who gets bitter when others succeed, the colleague who makes everything sound unnecessarily complicated. These behaviors might seem random, but they're not. They're all connected by one powerful psychological drive: the desperate need for status. And here's the twist: understanding why we do this can actually make us better professionals. Let's dive in. First up, name dropping. Before you think, "I would never," this behavior exists on a spectrum. Picture this: job interview. The candidate mentions their coffee meeting with the industry's top CEO, then their college roommate who works at Google, then their neighbor who knows Elon Musk. This taps into what psychologist Robert Cialdini calls the principle of association. Our brains automatically transfer positive feelings about famous people to those connected with them. It's evolutionary psychology at work. But here's where it gets interesting. Organizational psychologist Adam Grant discovered there's a crucial difference between strategic networking and what he calls instrumental networking, using people purely for personal gain. So when does name dropping actually work? When you're establishing relevant credentials. For instance, if you say, "I studied this methodology under Dr. Martinez, who pioneered it," or when you're facilitating genuine introductions, or when you're providing context for a real experience. But when you constantly reference famous connections without relevance, use associations to dodge questions about your own qualifications, or exaggerate relationships, studies show this triggers what researchers call reactance. People become skeptical. They view you as insecure. The behavior meant to impress actually destroys credibility. Now, what happens when name dropping doesn't work? When you don't get the promotion, the recognition, the respect you think you deserve? Some people turn to defensive criticism. "I can't believe they hired her. She doesn't even have the right background. He only got promoted because he's good at playing politics." This is cognitive dissonance in action. When reality doesn't match our expectations, our brains work overtime to resolve that conflict. Sometimes it's easier to blame external factors than examine our own performance. Social psychologist Jennifer Aker found that people with fragile high self-esteem, those whose confidence depends heavily on external validation, are particularly prone to this response. Here's what's really happening in your brain. Ego protection. You maintain self-worth by attributing others' success to luck. Just world bias. You believe outcomes should match your personal assessment of who deserves what. Social comparison. You're constantly evaluating yourself relative to others. But here's the professional danger. A study in the Journal of Applied Psychology found that managers rate candidates who criticize competitors as high-risk hires. When you diminish someone else's success, you're not just revealing something about them, you're revealing something about yourself. The third behavior is the most subtle: making simple things sound unnecessarily complicated. Instead of, "We need to talk to customers more," someone says, "We need to enhance our customer engagement paradigm through strategic touchpoint optimization." This is cognition acta mensa. When a speaker uses unnecessarily complex language, they aren't necessarily showing off genuine intellectual depth. They're more likely are relying on obfuscation as a form of artificial intellectual posturing. This often stems from impostor syndrome, the fear that you're not as smart as people think. So you overcompensate with complex language and obscure references. But here's the paradox. Research shows truly intelligent people explain complex ideas simply. Those compensating for insecurity often do the opposite. So how do you spot the difference? Legitimate complexity serves the content. Technical accuracy requires precise terms. Your audience has relevant expertise. Simplified versions lose critical meaning. Fake complexity serves the speaker. Jargon when common terms work fine. Convoluted explanations that confuse rather than clarify. Obscure references thrown in for status signaling. Cognitive scientist Daniel Kahneman found that people trust information presented clearly. When communication requires excessive mental effort to decode, it triggers skepticism, not admiration. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Recent brain imaging research reveals something incredible. Threats to social status activate the same brain regions that respond to physical pain. When your status feels threatened, your brain literally experiences it as injury. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman discovered our brains constantly assess our status relative to others. Even at rest, this process runs in the background. So these behaviors aren't character flaws, they're understandable responses to real psychological pressure. The question is, what do we do about it? Let's get practical. How do you recognize these patterns and communicate authentically? First, audit your communication. Record yourself in casual, professional conversations. Listen back. Are you name-dropping unnecessarily? Overcomplicating things? Getting defensive about others' success? Second, use the grandmother test. If you can't explain your idea to an intelligent person outside your field, you might be overcomplicating it. Third, separate your identity from outcomes. Psychologist Carol Dweck calls this a growth mindset, viewing setbacks as learning opportunities, not identity threats. Most importantly, build genuine expertise. Sustainable confidence comes from actual competence, not impression management. If you're a manager, create psychological safety. Research shows teams with high psychological safety see less defensive behavior and more authentic communication. Reward clarity and collaboration explicitly. Notice good communication, not just good results. Here's what research consistently shows. Authentic communication builds stronger relationships and better career outcomes. The Academy of Management Journal found that leaders rated as authentic achieved better performance and employee satisfaction. Authenticity doesn't mean oversharing or avoiding strategic communication. It means aligning your external presentation with genuine capabilities, communicating clearly rather than impressively, responding to setbacks with curiosity rather than defensiveness. The most successful professionals demonstrate value rather than claim it. They clarify ideas rather than obscure them. They celebrate others' success rather than diminish it. Look, we've all engaged in these behaviors. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. Name-dropping works when it's relevant and adds value. Complexity is good when it serves understanding, not ego. Criticism should be constructive, not defensive. In an era where information is abundant but trust is scarce, authenticity becomes a genuine competitive advantage. People can sense when you're being real versus when you're performing. Choose authenticity. Your career will thank you for it.